or everything on the stream?
Yeah, looks good.
Is it showing up on
That,
Twitch?
yeah, that looks
I
good
didn't
for
check
me.
that yet.
Do you see let me Oh yeah, it looks
I
good. I
see.
see it. Do you see it on Twitch?
I'm gonna open Twitch. Let me
Shoot, I have to put the link. Just give me a second.
Twitch. Can you open the browser so I can read the name again?
Wait,
You want to
just one
send me?
moment.
Yeah. Oh, that's. I have that Twitch one.
Okay, it looks good on my end. So I'm gonna start. Okay, welcome everyone to the Somnium Space Creator Sunday with Root and the Ultra Lord. Today we will be walking through the Sanctum and showing how I structure my project, and I'm gonna be doing some stuff with these mysterious cubes, these suspicious cubes. They're doing something. We're gonna find out what it is. So let's start. Uh, how is it, Arsalan? Like, is it
It's good. It's good.
okay? Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. So, yo, I'm gonna walk you guys through the Sanctum. Well, this is the Sanctum, home of the Cube Club, and a safe haven to all travelers throughout the metaverse. Do do
Oh
do
my
do
god.
do do
This
do
is
do
this
do
is a
do.
vote, right?
Yes, this is a world, a Somnium Space
The,
world.
the large one or the small one?
This is a small one. Do do do,
This is
and
the
this.
small. Oh, how big is the big one? Large
Oh
one.
yeah, it's pretty big. This is Alice. She safeguards the Sanctum,
Yeah,
watching
so
all the
actually
cute
the
little
world
ones.
sizes are like small worlds, like regular small worlds are 75 megabytes, and the M worlds are 200 megabytes, and the cell worlds are 500.
Yeah, but I don't know how much space it takes. If you understand me.
Yeah, like for
Uh,
example, this world is 53 megabytes. So if you structure your project right, compress a few things here and there, look at this. This is a small world. Do 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 do, and this is the tent. Do do do. You can go in here and take a break, relax. And this is the sanctum. Here, you can see all of these things are actually breakable. The cactus. I'll be walking through how I did that in a minute. And here there's a fireplace. And then here is the club. This is the temple, the party palace.
uh, Give us. Can you show it again for a
Which,
second?
you want to see the
The
party palace?
yeah. Oh,
Here it is.
that's cool.
These are my loved
So
ones.
so actually, you can invite people to your world and they can join here, right?
Yeah, we have parties here and everything.
Cool.
And so yeah, this is the sanctum. It's OMG, Oasis Meta Games, a safe
Yeah.
haven for the Cube Club. So yeah, this is what I'm building. So now that we've done a walkthrough of the world, I'm gonna be going through some Bolt. What do you think, Root?
That's cool. That's really cool.
Cool, awesome. You ready to do
Yeah,
some
definitely.
some Bolt?
So
So you design everything, all of it. I mean the lions and the stone and things
Yeah,
like
I
that.
got the lions off the Unity asset store. These guys were
Uh,
free. And then I have
yeah,
these big ones, the guardians. Yeah.
yeah.
Cats are
I
good.
know.
I like cats. So yeah, this
The,
is what
the lions are Persian actually.
yeah, they're Persian
They are
lions.
from Persepolis. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, so now I'm gonna walk through these mysterious cubes. I'm gonna press shift and space. I've made my screen full screen here. And yeah, you can see I'll walk through how I structure the project and how everything is. You can see I have
Yeah.
my flow graph here, my console here, my animation tab, and the project folder here. And here I have the actual game window. I like to keep it here because most of the time I do the testing in the actual scene with these magical orbs. And yeah, I'm gonna go through some stuff right now about Bolt. So, for example, you can see I have this cube, this object spawn. This is a trigger which is spawning objects on the characters. And what I've been doing is I've been experimenting on ways to attach objects onto characters.
And
So
I think what we could say, like, in that context, is that we wanted to do that because by default, you are not necessarily seeing what the other player is seeing because it's not synchronized. So actually, what the Ultralord is trying to find out here is like, can we like all play different like instruments and like different things in that scene that everyone can see. So by default, it's basically that only you yourself can see when you touch something in the world how it's laid out. And if you wanna like have that in multiplayer, oh hey,
And if it gets lower than water, it will.
Cyborg, do you wanna mute your
yeah,
mic? It's really
could you
loud.
mute your mic, cyborg.eth? Yeah,
Your observation.
yeah, mute your mic. Thank you.
Oh, cool, thanks.
So yeah, basically when you're building things, when it comes to doing things, it takes a certain type of a mindset. You want to do a thing, and when you're doing a thing, how you do the thing is the problem. So it's about solving that problem of how. That's the question. So when you build things, a lot of time it's gonna be kind of like, like any way you can to solve a problem, whatever works. So for example, here what we're doing is we're spawning the objects on all the players in the scene, though we're spawning them actually on the local instance of the player. So this gives the effect of multiplayer. Yeah, so this is what's going to allow us to play this magical orb that plays sounds when you touch it by attaching colliders that trigger this. You can see over here, let's walk into some bolt. This one is we're defining the actual variable first, which is a component of our game object. And when you're programming, you have to think of like programming is like building with bricks, but the bricks are made of your mind. So you have to like break down these elements of your mind into concrete little pieces that you can play around with and manipulate. In this case, we've set a variable here for the collider, and what's going on is like it's starting from left to right. Is it gets the variable of the collider, which is the actual sphere collider. You can see it here, and then after it gets the collider, we do an event on trigger enter, which is using the variable, and then it's continuing, and then we're playing a particle system. You can see the flow, and then we're defining the particle system using a variable, which is a component of our game object. After that, we're playing a sound, which is again a variable, a component of our game object, and we're doing the exact same thing here. Except in this case, we want to change the material. To change the material, we have to actually access the material from the mesh renderer. As you can see here, we have the mesh renderer, a variable. So we're looking, so if I go here into the actual sphere, you can see like this thing here is the inspector, and this thing is what allows us to inspect our objects. Objects are just a bunch of components. Think of it as a bunch of Lego blocks. So these things, you can see it has a transform, it has the actual mesh, and then here we have the mesh renderer, and there's a material attached. So that's what we're doing here. We're calling the mesh renderer from the object sphere, right? Right here, and then we're changing the material using this node. You can right click and you can choose whatever node you want. For example, you can press branch, type in branch, then boom, all that stuff. Yeah. So that's just some bolt, and I'm gonna be continuing this. Uh, any questions? Root, am I doing? Is everything good? Arsalan, you guys understand?
Yeah, I think you're doing great. I'm not 100% sure yet why we need to spawn the colliders. So maybe you can explain that again because I think that's a really important point.
Right. So when you're building, like in Bolt, the basic structure is you want a game object that contains everything. So your bolt is contained inside this game object. So you can see here, this is actually an empty game object. And inside this empty game object, I have this sphere, right? Which I can right click. I can just add a component, right click, 3D object, sphere, and now it's a child of this. So if I move this around, it moves everything in here around with it. So we have the sphere, the actual particle system, the explosion, and then the actual note being played. So here you can see that to actually use these things inside our bolt script, we need to first define them as variables. Variables are just buckets where we're placing things. So we can do that by writing a variable. For example, we set a variable here, and then we just press plus, and then we can set the type. In this case, I'm going to put a game object, right? And then I can just grab it from here and then set it here. So I'll just show you. Just put that there, boom. Now I have a variable. I can now interact with this, and it'll call this actual game object, which I've set here. And that's why we have to use
Very cool.
this structure. It's much easier instead of adding, like, for example, a script here or a script here. We would just add a script here and then just use everything inside like its own little space. So that's basically how we're doing things. We just remove this.
Yeah, and that's amazing for like how the sound sphere is structured. And now, if you could explain again why we need the colliders to actually
Oh,
interact with it with multiplayer.
right.
I
So,
think that would be another really interesting part.
yeah, good point. Thank you, Root. So, what we're doing in Unity, a lot of our interactions with the players and in Somnium Space is going to be based off of the player entering a trigger. So when the player enters a trigger, you can see we have this thing on trigger enter, and it's calling the collider. To actually get it to interact, I don't know. Oh shoot, what's going on here? Shootable collider. Yeah. So, huh, interesting. Okay. So basically, usually you have to put is trigger, but you can see that I haven't done that here, so I might have made a mistake. But usually you select this, or maybe I was doing like another thing. But usually you select this. When you select this, this makes the game object like uninteractable with the world, but it allows a trigger event to happen. So when the player goes into it, instead of it stopping the player as a collision, it would trigger an event using that collision data that the player triggers. So that's why we use like colliders. You can see, for example, these mysterious cubes are actually colliders. I'm using no, not this one. I'm using this one as a collider, right? And then I'm doing everything based off of that. So that's why we use colliders in Somnium Space and Unity. It allows us to create dynamic logic that reacts to the player's interaction with it within our Somnium Space world. So, yeah,
Instead of the cubes, we could basically, if we're just like setting those colliders to our hands and feet that we want to play with, we could also use buttons instead, right? Like this doesn't need to be just like something that we walk through or tap in. That could also instead be like a button that we
yeah,
press or something like that. So we just use this for basically prototyping, like rapid prototyping, and it's the fastest and easiest way to basically test these things. But the sound spheres, they are actually meant to be music instruments that you play. So there it makes total sense that this is basically happening on trigger enter. So yeah, it's
yeah,
just to give you the context about why those are actually all having triggers, but only the ones on the sound sphere are actually thought out to be having this certain functionalities, and the other ones you should rather see as like debugging options over here, where we're just like testing different. The ultra alert is testing different settings on how and where the cube is spawning. on the player.
Yeah, so like when we want to prototype, we would just press play, for example, and then we would wait, it's just doing its thing, it's starting up. There we go. Now we're doing a live game. The game is live. You can see I have these NPC guys. They're a bunch of bugs. They're just flying around. They're part of the ecology here. So yeah. And like if I wanted to test anything, I could just grab this. This is my testing thing. You can see that it has a sphere collider and it has a rigid body. This is important in order to actually trigger the event. So if I can show you here, I can just move this sphere and hold on. Wait, oh, it's got stuck in a tree. Okay, okay. There. Now it's down and then boom. See, it triggered an event. Something's happening. It's checking. It's doing its thing. False, false, false. It's running its code. And that's why these are very useful for prototyping the triggers and stuff and using them. Usually what you do is you'd actually have this invisible. So you'd actually have the mesh renderer, like you can see, you'd actually have the mesh renderer invisible. So you would have something else in here that would interact. But yeah, this is just to test, just to make sure. So yeah, I'm gonna continue with what I'm actually doing, which is actually spawning uh, objects on all the players who are currently in the instance of the game, so that we can all participate in playing these wonderful and magical sound spheres. And the way we're going to be doing that is through the magic of programming. So you can see I tried two ways to actually attach objects to the player. So you can see what I'm doing here is I'm grabbing the trigger, I'm doing an on trigger enter node, and then I'm checking multiple things. This branch node, it takes the flow, and then the bottom here is a boolean. So it checks whatever comes out, if this is true or false. And then this is based off of the result of this. So you can see that I have a variable here. If I go to my object, the variable is called isSpawnedRightFoot. Right? So it checks if this is false. If this is false, it continues. So I'm using this to make sure that the objects aren't spawned repeatedly on the player. So if you jump in, it'll spawn. But if you already have it, right? If you've already jumped into the trigger and it's done its thing, you can see at the very end of it. Whoa, here we go. At the very end of it, these are true. So after it's run its thing and the player has like a thing on it, now that this is true, when the player jumps on the trigger again, it'll check these things. And it'll only run these things if they're false. So when the player has an object, it won't work. So it's checking multiple things. I have checking the foot, the arm, the hands. And then here, I'm attaching it by getting all the objects in the scene, and then I'm running a for loop. You're seeing that the flow is going here, and the for loop works like this. It's like a list, and it starts from the beginning, it stops at the end, and it goes through. And it's starting at index 0, which in programming means the first index, so we always start with 0. And it's ending at whatever the number of items are here. So using this, we can count the objects here. So it'll run through and it does its thing, this whole thing inside the loop. And what it does is it creates a variable. In this case, we're using a flow node. This basically, like it's not an object here. It's not a variable in the scene or even a variable in the graph. It literally only exists like in this instance of code. So it's only as the flow goes. It's setting a variable which it creates called game object, right? So now, like there's no variable here. It's all here. And then I'm setting another one called player string. I'm running all of this. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm looking for like the actual player. It's looking for whatever is called player in the whole scene that we've set in the game object. So whatever is player, it's finding it. And then after that, it's instantiating. Here, this is a game object instantiate node. you have the flow
It's not
going.
like oh, sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt
yeah,
you.
yeah.
I
No,
just
no.
have a quick question because you're saying like it's looking for the player, but it's looking exactly like for the hands and the feet and everything, right? Like
No, no, it's not looking for that. It's looking for only the player. Because,
oh
well,
really?
yeah, you can see a player here. It's looking for the player game object in the entire scene. So anything that's in the scene that has player, it looks for it. And then what we're doing is we're instantiating this cube onto this the parent. And the parent, we're finding it by actually going at the player string that we set, here, right? After we've gotten the game object and then we've looked for it and we've looked through and we've set, the game object name get to player string, right? So you have the root game objects, we're counting through, we're getting the list item of root game objects, and then we're going here and we're getting the actual player from the scene, from the flow variable. And then it's like you can see that what's going on here is it's getting the whole player name, and then the way it works is we're attaching a string. We're concatenating, which means we're combining two strings. So in this we have like what we're combining is this motion unity XR. So it's attaching. It's looking for the motion in the player game object, the unity XR camera rig, and then from there it's looking for the right hand and then the right anchor. And then I'm looking for this game object. I'm getting its name, and then I'm using its name as the parent. So this thing is going to instantiate the cube onto like the actual hand. In this case, it's this right anchor. Then after that, I'm setting is spawned right. So using this, I was able to get the hands to work, but unfortunately, it didn't work for the feet. So what I've been able to do is use another method. So I'll show you this other method by yeah, wait, just give me a second here.
No stress.
Right, this is it. I think so. Yeah. So here you can see instead of doing a trigger, we're doing a start event. So when the player goes into the actual game, like that means the game has started. So it's doing this and it's looking for that. In this case, it's red because we're not actually in the game. So here it's looking for the player game object, and we're doing it in a completely different way. We're going to be attaching instead of to these anchors, which are just empty game objects that are attached to the player, we'll be attaching to the actual joint of the player. And the way we're going to be getting that joint is by looking for an animator, which is in the children. And then based on that, we'll be getting the object name, and in this case, the name is male underscore som. We'll be looking if the object name equals that. If that's true, then we're going to be running into this branch. Once we get into this branch, you have the true and false. If it's true, right?
So what if it's a female one?
Oh yeah, this is just the name that the player game object is. So like it's all the same.
Oh
Whether
really?
you know what I mean? Like the actual player is the same. You're the one who defines if you're male or female, but the actual structure, right, of the player
Yeah.
game object is the same. That's pretty philosophical. That's pretty deep. We're all the same. Yeah. So now going back, like you can see once we look for this game object, that's the animator called male underscore som, we're gonna put it into our branch, and if it's true, we run here and we do it all again, right? Yeah, and if it's false, right, we're going to actually attach the game object right here. So we can see that we're attaching this left foot. So what I'm gonna do, we're actually getting the bone, and then we're gonna attach this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this whole thing. I'm gonna grab this. I'm gonna copy it. After I've copied it, I can go to my actual object spawn.
I think they should rename the player.
Yeah, I think they should rename it to Avatar,
Yeah,
right?
honestly.
That would be a little bit more clear.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do next here is shoot. Uh-oh. Is I'm gonna move this. And what's going on here? Hey, Arsalan, anything? Are you there? Does there anyone have a question?
I'm here, but no, I don't have a question.
Oh, okay.
Basically, my English is not that good, so I understand like 80% of what you are speaking about.
Well, is there anything like you need clarification on? Any questions you have about Somnium Space Worlds?
Mm, About the whole world or about this project you are doing right now?
I mean, about anything.
Yeah, I want to know how people can join my world when I have one.
So basically, you'd place the world on your parcel, then people
Oh,
can
so
just
I need to have a person.
yeah, you need to have a parcel. You can either buy one or you can rent one. You can even rent a world and then place it on, you know? You can do that. The sky's the limit. Really, the only thing limiting you is your imagination and the degree you're able to wait because good things come to those who wait. So yeah,
Yeah.
I hope I cleared everything up.
Okay. So and do I need a teleporter or something like that?
No,
Or
I mean a
just
teleporter would be convenient, but you don't need one. You don't need a
I
teleporter. You
just
can
walk.
even, yeah, it's
That's
better
easy.
to walk, you know? You can always
That's
just,
fun to go on a walk with friends as well.
yeah, it's always a
no,
good time.
I mean from my parcel to my world.
Yeah, you can just place your world on the parcel and then you can walk to your parcel. And when you get to your parcel, you can walk into your world. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Like an icon or something like that. When they click on it, they so someone on my world.
Yeah, yeah. What do you mean?
I mean, for example, someone come to my parcel and there is a door or something like that, and when they use it, they join my world or.
No, the
Yeah,
worlds
something
will,
like that.
yeah, it'll be like a sphere. And then you can just place the
Mhm.
sphere anywhere. You can just, you can build an altar around it. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put people
Mhm.
praying to my world and stuff. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I understand.
yeah. So like you can see I'm kind of like trying to figure out what I'm doing here. So I'm just gonna undo this. I'm gonna go back. Oh, okay. So I'm just gonna paste this in here and move it. And I'm pretty sure it was just going in here. After I'm spawning this, I'm going to do this whole thing. Yeah, that's basically how it works. So that's some bolt for you, and I'll be going over some of the multiplayer, how multiplayer works. It's quite convenient in Somnium Space. Let me just there. You can see uh this guy just floating here, just chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually special. You know, he doesn't look like much, but he's special because he's a multiplayer cube. I mean, multiplayer sphere. This guy, you can basically like create soccer games.
Oh
So
yeah. So people can interact with this.
yeah, this is a completely fully interactable multiplayer sphere, and it's built quite
Cool.
simply. You can see that all I have here is an empty game object, within it a sphere, in this case called Blade Collider, just because I was doing some testing. So this
Yes.
sphere, yeah, and we have this bolt script, we have the collider, and then we have a photon view. This photon view is actually grabbing this from here. The trick to actually making multiplayer objects is by attaching a few simple components. These components include the photon view script and the photon rigid body view. And
Yeah.
we can access these by simply installing Pun. I'll do that right now. You can go to the Unity Asset Store. Hey, Arslan, how's the
Yes.
tutorial?
Sorry.
Like, how is my tutorial skills? Am I doing good? Because
Yeah.
this is the first time I'm doing this, so
Yeah.
yeah.
You're
But
doing great.
as
Thank you.
as long as I understand, it means you are good because my English is not good. So
Your English is perfect, man. I don't know. You're being really hard on yourself. You sound fine to me.
thank you.
So yeah, you can see we can just go onto the Unity Asset Store. We can get a lot of things for free even, right? You can get whatever you want here, you know? It's like yeah, you can just go here and buy stuff or you can get them for free. In this case, we're looking at Photon 2. We can grab this for free, open it in Unity, and install it. It'll just open up here. I've already got it installed. After you've installed it, there are some simple things like putting in your email to set it up and make an account. After you've done that, you have to basically you have to make the unit options so that it works with Bolt. Bolt is what Somnium Space uses. It's what we've been doing here. It's the basic mechanism of how programming is done in Somnium Space using graphic
Do you
logic and flowcharts.
yeah,
Yeah.
do you also need to manage the gravity and things like that for this ball, or just
Yeah, you can actually set the the gravity here. For example, you basically add a component called a rigid body, which applies physics to the actual like sphere or whatever you want. It doesn't have to be a sphere. But this just tells
yeah.
everything that this thing gravity acts upon it. If I uncheck this, gravity wouldn't act upon it. I can set the mass, the drag, the angular drag, so I can make it fall slower. And then these are the way it'll calculate the actual physics. Extrapolate is the most, right? So it'll kind of like move the ball more fluidly, and none is the least. And then you have the collision detection here, which is how how reactive the ball is, like whether it falls through stuff or not. How also impactful on your processing for your computer. So you can see
Oh,
the least one is discrete and the best one is continuous dynamic. So we're using that here. So yeah, everything's handled. Did I just do something?
No,
I
you're
need
good.
to work. I need
Yeah.
to work with Unity a little more. So
Yeah, it's very amazing. It's like look at this. Look, I'm like a god. Look,
And
I have my own world.
it's it's also that like all the other like Unity physics engine with joints and whatnot should actually also work in there.
Yeah, everything works. You just have to make sure that like when you're building the components, excuse me, that you keep in mind what your components are made of, and you also remember the hierarchy. Now this looks confusing, and it kind of is because I haven't like organized it, but you can see there's been some efforts of organization, like this whole the the temple here itself. It's all in one game
Also,
object. These are multiple
organization
game objects.
is like
really cool.
mostly important when you work with more people. I think if you work by yourself, and especially when you're prototyping a lot, it's just about like saving time and not about being super tidy. Then I would probably say
Yeah,
something else regarding organizing, but
yeah. It all comes down to like what you plan on doing. When you're building a project, always ask yourself why. What do I want to do? And that'll kind of guide you too. So when you prototype, it's very important that you have some type of a direction in mind. Like for example, here, I prototype this, and it's still in a prototype. But I have a plan, you know? You can see there are lots of cats here, like Alice. She's the best. So yeah. So continuing with what I was doing, yeah, this is basically how I do things, how I structure some things. I hope you all found this really
I
great.
think one last thing that you could show, I think that was
Yeah.
really interesting that I saw in your world is how you change the rotation and the position of the cubes that you're spawning onto the player hands.
Oh, right.
I think that was something really interesting to see that you can actually do like in the world with the objects that you basically spawned previously.
Yeah, so like you can see that like when I instantiate an actual cube here, where is this at? No, this is it. No, this is it. So you can see that when I instantiate a cube, what I'm doing right here, what actually happens is the object that's instantiated, it has the word of the prefab, but it also has the word clone after it. And I can actually use the knowledge that I have here. For example, looking through this thing actually allows me to position and rotate the objects that I instantiate. You can see here the target game object name is cube clone. The actual game object is cube. And you can see that, for example, here, this is a button that changes the rotation. When the player enters this, right, it's grabbing a variable called rotation vector, which is, no, it's not here. But yeah, it's actually setting this. It's an object variable. The object variable is here. You can see it's on here. So you can see because it's a child, I can actually call it, right? So I can call it here inside the game object. So I'm setting it, and I'm doing that by getting the variable, the rotation tool, changing a couple of things, adding them, and then I'm doing a custom event. Yeah, so you can see that, yeah, it's doing all these things here. For example, Text Mesh Pro is the actual text that you see up here. And that's something that you can add yourself. It's a great way to debug things in Unity.
And so just to explain that when you're in the world and you're actually touching those, you're getting your live values shown where rotation is
Yeah,
currently written. So it's like a really good way to like have immediate feedback and really accurate feedback.
yeah, exactly. You using this, this is a great way to debug stuff. So when you actually upload a world, you can't really see what's going on, but you can see using the magic of text mesh. Right? So for example, what we're doing here is, you can see that it's right up here. The actual text is rotation. But what I'm doing on the button is I'm grabbing the variable which I've set. Hold on. Wait.
Yeah, you have it there.
Here. So you can see that this one, Text Mesh Pro text set, and it's actually grabbing the variable called output console, which is right there. It's actually right there. You see it right here? So I'm grabbing that, I'm setting it, and then I'm getting the rotation vector. I'm changing that to a string, and then I'm changing the name. So it outputs the actual stuff, so I can see the amount that I want to change. And then after it does that, right, I'm actually changing the rotation of the game object. By using this node, game object find, it'll look for this game object in the specific scene, and in this case, it's looking for the game object called cube clone, which is the game object that I instantiated. After it looks for that, it's setting the rotation, which is based off the rotation vector that we've set here in the thing. You can see that this thing is actually made of multiple components. So you have multiple scripts running inside here. Actually, there's just one script. But this thing is made of multiple scripts, right? So there's one script here, it resets everything, and it's triggering an event. If you go here, yeah, it's all just a bunch of components. So using this, like, it's quite
Um,
powerful. You
just a
can
quick
create
question
everything.
there, like because I think this is also multiplayer, right? Like it's synchronized that I see it when you do it as well. So I was wondering, is there any photon view on that one as well?
Oh, no, this doesn't have any photon view. Like what we're doing with the multiplayer is we're doing fake multiplayer for now. But this is actually just it's changing the object. So, yeah, we're doing a
Oh,
trick
so
to
this is,
solve.
but this is then like changing it for everyone in the world,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
some things like text mesh changes for everyone in the world automatically, so to say, and other things don't.
Yeah. So it all depends on how you structure and how you do things. There are multiple ways of doing things and solving a problem. It's what's most convenient for you. So like there were some things that we were able to animate. Here, for example, this thing is using the photon view, the sync to animation. We're using the photon view and the photon animator view. But there are other things that we can't really sync. In the case of photon view, you can't really sync instantiated game objects, but you can kind of hack around it. So instead of instantiating a game object for everyone on like their instance, you're actually instantiating a game object on your own instance, but you're instantiating the game object on all the players in the scene. So like it's pretty ingenious, really. Yeah, so that's how you do things. And yeah, thank you so much, Root. Thank you, Arsalan.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead, bro.
uh, how do you learn these?
Well, you first have to set your intention, right? And after you've fully decided that this is what you want to do for the rest of your life, you just go on the internet and you just learn. In the case of what I did is I actually found a Udemy course. My fantastic and great friend Artific recommended it. It teaches Bolt and all that stuff, and I just went through the course, and then I applied what I learned. So just think of it like this: if you write a single page every day, you'll eventually have a book. So that's kind of
Yeah,
how you just learn. It's like a mindset. You're not going to be able to learn it fast, but if you want to learn it, you'll be able to learn it. And by learning it, you can create anything you want. Do 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 do
There's so
do
much on
do
the
do
internet,
do.
and we're always here, especially if you're already in Somnium. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's gonna be like pretty easy for you to get started.
yeah, bro. We're here
And
to
like
help.
another, yeah, another friend of ours,
thank
Blake,
you.
he just started with that course, and he's making incredible progress. So, um, yeah, I think you're gonna have results pretty fast.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you very much.
for sure, bro.
Like the difference between this metaverse and other ones, I feel like that until now is like people here are really more friendly than people
That's
on
the
the
VR
other.
community. VR people
Yeah,
are friendly because they're few. They have to stick together.
Yeah, we have to stick together. So yeah, man, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure,
thank you.
bro.
Can I ask you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just imagine that you have a door here, okay? Is there any way that people need to interact at the door to enter it? And uh, I mean, can you do some limits for people? For example, you have a whitelisted that can pass from the door, and a whitelist, a blacklist
Not
which
yet.
can't. Oh, yeah, that's.
But that's definitely coming in the future, like what Ultralight said before, in terms of like that seamless economy, like on the platform. That's
Mm,
really something that should enable all these kind of things.
yeah,
But
cool.
currently, it's not the case. So currently, everyone that is in Somnium space can potentially just access the world
Yeah, cool. That's
when it's
cool.
uploaded.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
And
you.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thank
learned a
you. That
lot.
was really fun.
yeah, I had a great time. Thank you, Root. Thank you, Arslan, and thank you, viewers. Thank you, viewers. I hope you guys
Uh,
all had a wonderful time, and I gave you all a sneak peek to the inner mechanics of the
But,
sanctum.
are you gonna go? Are you gonna do that again soon, or
Yeah,
is the Neverod again doing it next week?
probably Denevro will do it next week, but hopefully I'm gonna do it again, maybe in a much more structured way, and yeah, and we can walk through and build worlds together.
All
Yeah.
right, cool. But that was great. You did great.
Thank you so much, Ru. Thank you, Arsalan, for joining us,
Thank you.
and we're looking forward to welcome all of you, and having the Persian New Year in Somnium Space.
Yes,
Thank
can't
you.
wait. Definitely let us know.
Yeah,
But by the way, do you save the stream? Or I
yeah.
can
You
watch it
can
later.
you can watch the stream on our Twitch, Somnium
Yeah.
Space.
Okay. Cool. That's cool.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you all on the other side of the monitor. Do 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 do.
Bye bye. Thank you.
do.